Welcome back. Today we're tackling a big question. How did a small, divided corner of Eurasia, Europe, come to dominate the world for centuries? It's not about superiority, but about a unique mix of geography, ideas, technology, and ambition that set the stage for global change. We'll explore the land, the rise of new thinking, the power of the printing press, the harsh realities of conquest, and the Industrial Revolution. This isn't a simple story of triumph. It's messy, complicated, and its consequences still shape our world. Let's dive into the key factors that gave Europe the edge. To truly understand how Europe rose to global prominence, you have to start with a map. Geography wasn't just a backdrop, it was the main character in Europe's story. Europe's landscape is a patchwork of peninsulas, islands, and mountain ranges, creating a continent that's fragmented and diverse at every turn. This natural fragmentation made it nearly impossible for a single power to unify the continent for long. Unlike the vast, centralized empires of China or the Middle East, Europe was destined to remain divided. Instead, dozens of kingdoms, duchies, and city-states competed relentlessly, militarily, economically, and technologically. Each one was constantly trying to outdo the others, driving innovation and progress. Rivers like the Rhine and Danube acted as natural highways, making trade and communication not just possible, but easy and efficient. These waterways connected distant regions, turning Europe into a bustling network of exchange. A merchant in London could send goods to Genoa or Amsterdam, and in the process, ideas, technologies, and cultures spread rapidly across borders. Trade wasn't just about goods, it was about knowledge. The temperate climate and reliable rainfall supported stable agriculture, which in turn fueled population growth and urbanization. Europe's fields became the foundation for thriving cities and bustling markets. Different regions specialized: wine in France, wool in England, timber in the Baltics, creating a web of interdependence. This diversity encouraged constant trade and collaboration. Monarchs couldn't rule alone. They had to negotiate with powerful nobles, the church, and wealthy merchants. This constant balancing act prevented absolute power and forced rulers to innovate and adapt. If a thinker or inventor faced persecution in one state, they could simply move to another. Ideas found new homes, and competition between states meant that innovation was always in demand. This created a dynamic marketplace for talent, creativity, and new inventions. Cities became magnets for skilled workers and ambitious minds. Europe's geography fostered not just competition and trade, but a delicate balance of power that kept progress moving forward, generation after generation. The land itself set the stage for everything that followed, shaping the destinies of nations and peoples. Fragmented states, navigable rivers, diverse climates, and political pluralism made Europe a unique sandbox for change and experimentation. Long before the scientific revolution or the industrial age, geography had already primed Europe for transformation and growth. The continent's natural features created a system where no single ruler could slam the brakes on progress. There was always somewhere new for ideas to take root. This relentless competition and constant exchange of ideas would become Europe's greatest advantage, fueling centuries of innovation. The groundwork for modern Europe was laid by the land itself, shaping its people, its politics, and its future. Geography wasn't just Europe's secret weapon, it was the engine that powered its rise. For centuries, tradition and ancient texts explained the world. People looked to the wisdom of the past, trusting the authority of philosophers like Aristotle and the teachings of the Church to make sense of nature and the cosmos. But in the 16th and 17th centuries, Europe's scientific revolution rewrote the rules, ushering in a new era of discovery and understanding. Thinkers like Copernicus and Galileo dared to challenge old beliefs, using careful observation and mathematics instead of simply accepting authority. They questioned what everyone thought was true, and in doing so, they changed the way we see the universe. Isaac Newton's laws revealed that the universe was governed by rational, discoverable principles, mathematical laws that applied everywhere from falling apples to the motion of planets. This new scientific method, test, observe, prove, became Europe's toolkit for understanding and changing the world. Experimentation and evidence replaced superstition and guesswork. Europe's political fragmentation actually helped. If one ruler suppressed new ideas, another might welcome them, creating a competitive environment where innovation could thrive. Institutions like London's Royal Society championed evidence over dogma, bringing together curious minds to share discoveries and debate ideas. Science quickly found practical uses. Better telescopes improved navigation, allowing explorers to cross oceans with greater confidence and accuracy. Chemistry boosted agriculture and mining, leading to better harvests and more efficient extraction of resources, which fueled economic growth. Discoveries led to new technologies, which in turn enabled more discoveries, a powerful feedback loop that accelerated progress across every field. European armies gained better weapons, economies became more efficient, and societies more innovative, setting the stage for Europe's global influence. The culture of questioning spread beyond science. Thinkers like Locke and Voltaire applied reason to politics, sparking the Enlightenment and inspiring revolutions in thought and government. The scientific revolution wasn't just about discoveries, it was a new way of thinking, a shift toward curiosity, skepticism, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Empiricism, skepticism, and proof became the norm, replacing blind faith with critical inquiry and experimentation. This mindset gave Europe a systematic way to generate knowledge, and with knowledge came unprecedented power and progress. The revolution in thought fueled revolutions in technology, society, and government, laying the groundwork for the modern world. Europe's advantage grew as it mastered the art of questioning and discovery, spreading its influence across continents. The scientific revolution changed everything, transforming not just science, but every aspect of life. It was the engine of Europe's transformation, powering centuries of innovation and shaping the world we know today. Ideas only matter if they can spread, and Gutenberg's printing press made that possible. Before printing, books were rare and expensive, reserved for elites. Gutenberg's movable type slashed costs and made mass production possible. Suddenly, books, pamphlets, and maps reached merchants, artisans, and ordinary people. Knowledge escaped the monastery and palace, fueling an information explosion. The number of books soared from millions to hundreds of millions in a century. Scientists could now share, debate, and build on each other's work across borders. The press powered the Protestant Reformation. Luther's ideas spread like wildfire. Literacy rates climbed as reading became valuable and accessible. A culture of debate and critical thinking emerged, undermining blind obedience to authority. Standardized texts unified science, law, and even national identity. The printing press was Europe's first information revolution, connecting people, ideas, and movements. It accelerated the spread of scientific and political change. The press armed minds and laid the foundation for modern society. Europe's competitive system, scientific method, and printing press formed a powerful trio. The press was the amplifier, turning sparks of innovation into continent-wide fires. It made Europe's transformation unstoppable. The world would never be the same. The printing press changed everything. Europe's rise to global power was fueled by centuries of conquest and exploitation. Colonialism fundamentally changed the world's trajectory. The ambitions of European empires set in motion a chain of events that would reshape continents and societies. Armed with new technology, advanced navigation, and scientific breakthroughs, European nations set out to control global trade and seize valuable resources. Their ships and weapons gave them a decisive edge over distant lands. The search for sea routes led to the so-called discovery of the Americas, unleashing waves of conquest and the devastation of indigenous populations by disease and violence. Conquistadors toppled mighty empires with steel, guns, and ruthless tactics, while disease swept through native communities, decimating millions. Gold and silver from the Americas poured into Europe, funding wars, monarchies, and economic expansion. This influx of wealth transformed European societies and fueled their ambitions further. Plantations in the Americas and Caribbean produced sugar, tobacco, and cotton, built on the backs of millions of enslaved Africans whose forced labor drove the colonial economy. The transatlantic slave trade became a cornerstone of Europe's wealth, with human lives treated as mere commodities in a brutal system of exploitation. In Asia, Europeans used naval power to control ports and trade, extracting profits as armed middlemen and establishing powerful trading companies that shaped entire regions. Europe became the hub of a vast global network, drawing resources and wealth from every continent and connecting distant peoples through commerce and coercion. Colonial raw materials fueled Europe's factories, powering the Industrial Revolution. Colonies became captive markets for European goods, deepening their dependence. This system turbocharged Europe's development, funded further innovation, and transformed cities into industrial powerhouses. The rise of Europe was global, built on domination, exploitation, and the subjugation of countless peoples. Colonialism rewired the world economy, creating vast inequalities that persist to this day, dividing nations and peoples along lines of wealth and power. The wealth and power of Europe came at a tremendous human cost. Millions suffered, cultures were destroyed, and entire societies were transformed forever. The legacy of this era still shapes our world, visible in the architecture of cities, the struggles for independence, and ongoing debates about justice and reparations. Europe's dominance was forged in conquest, leaving a mark on history that cannot be erased. Colonial wealth fueled the next leap, the Industrial Revolution, which began in Britain. Britain's geography, stable government, and scientific culture set the stage. Abundant coal powered new machines, especially the steam engine, perfected by James Watt. Factories transformed textiles, iron, and transport. One worker could now outproduce hundreds. British goods flooded global markets, crushing local industries elsewhere. Iron and steel production soared, building the modern world's infrastructure. Railways and steamships shrank distances, connecting markets and empires. Industrial power gave Europe unmatched military might, mass-produced weapons, and ironclad ships. The gap between Europe and the rest of the world became unbridgeable. Cities swelled as people left farms for factory jobs, creating new social classes and tensions. Industrialization spread to other European countries and the US, but Europe kept its head start. By the late 1800s, Europe controlled global markets and could enforce its will almost anywhere. The Industrial Revolution was the final boost to European dominance. It reshaped economies, societies, and the balance of power. The world order was transformed by coal, steam, and steel. Europe's industrial might sealed its global supremacy. The age of empires had arrived. From fractured geography to industrial might, Europe's rise was a chain reaction of innovation, conquest, and transformation. This story is one of creativity and brutality, progress and exploitation. The world we know, its borders, economies, and inequalities, was forged in this era. Are we still living with the consequences of Europe's dominance? Let us know in the comments. Understanding this history helps us make sense of today's world. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe and check the description for sources. Until next time, keep exploring.